So why do you see beings or aliens or astral entities or imunwa in our African language, in African spirituality, in the Nguni language? Why do you see these beings during psychedelic ceremony that almost take you from one space where you are, whether in the mountains or somewhere under a hut or indoors? They take you from one space and they take you to this other dimension, right? And then within this dimension, it could be a spaceship, it could be just another, but that you're basically on a table and they're surgically doing something to your body. So why do you see those things? Why are these things so consistent over the years? I've seen this over and over and over again, and I think that I could easily say that it's six or 7 out of 10 people who go through Wachuma or Ayahuasca go through this, right? And there's so many answers to actually tackle this. One of them is, if you know about trauma, right? Trauma gets stored inside your body. So your body is a memory of your past. And not only is it a memory of your past, like specifically in this time realm, this dimension with you being alive, but it's also a memory of your ancestral lineage. So all the stuff that has been passed along genetically, right, gets stored into the body. And now we're starting to slowly understand that the genes are manipulated by behavior. So that study is called epigenetics. There's also another one in the more neuroscience and how our neurons start firing different ways depending on whatever way and what harms our body, etc., and what it tells our body. So we're slowly starting to learn that our behavioral mechanisms, our disconnection from who we truly are, which is inner peace, is what causes the psychosis, not only of the mind, but also of the body. And so that is why now you find that there's a huge school of people who are slowly starting to believe that cancer is not something that is inherited genetically only, but it's inherited genetically because of a behavioral mechanism within the gene, within your genetic pool, your ancestral lineage, right? And that lineage is the one that passed along the cancer to you, yes, biologically, but how did it start? It started by a certain behavioral mechanism within the lineage, certain trauma and how it was dealt with, how your body was never actually regulated during a threatening experience, how your nervous system felt like it's out of balance and it's going crazy during a threatening experience. And so because of that, your body actually goes tense, and that part of you that actually holds that, it takes in the energy and it stores it some way. So it's the same thing. Like I've seen it time and time again, whether we talk about migraines, these astral beings or these, I don't know what you want to call them, these entities, right? The entities. They're going to come and put you on a table and almost like they're opening your brain and they're brushing your brain and maybe taking it out and you're like, wow, this is so amazing. And they replace your brain with a better brain. They take out your heart if you have a heart issue, or they just put these little bots, right? These little alien looking bots that are just working on your heart, right? Or if it's your stomach and you have this gastro thing going on where you don't understand what's going on and you've been to every single doctor and it's not ending. And so they're going to literally work on that and they're going to zoom into that. And they're going to try and reshape and change that part. If it's your sacral chakra, right, your private parts or that area, they're going to work on that too. They're like, we're removing all this dark energy that has been stored in the system of rape and this and this and this. So if we look at these beings or these entities as a metaphor, right, they are metaphorically working on the part where your body stored the trauma and the traumatic experiences. They are metaphorically or theoretically, they're working on that part. It could be here, it could be anywhere in your body. And one thing that every patient client who's walked into our doors would say that they felt so familiar, right? These entities, these weird entities, they felt so familiar. And I've had people draw these entities, and I'd find that in most cases, they are these just beam of light, these tall beings who are made of pure light, and they have long hands, because I've made some people draw them, and it's almost similar, like the drawings are almost similar, the explanation is almost similar as well over the years. So it's quite interesting how that works. Right. And during my own initiation into the psychedelic realm as a practitioner, an indigenous practitioner, shaman, during my initiation, I actually asked these beings because they worked on me as well. And I remember one of my earliest experiences, which a couple of years ago, where they were working on my sacral chakra. And they were also working on this part of, like, what is it called? Is it the liver? I used to have like sharp pains every once in a while near my kidneys and livers, and they were working on that. And I remember that was the end of that pain. So it's really interesting. And with the sacral chakra, it was because of the sexual trauma. So it's really, really interesting how it happens, right? Sometimes they just walk in and you are there right then. They like hold still and you're not moving, and they like hold still and they just work on you and work on you, and it feels so liberating. It's not scary at all. It feels so liberating, and they like hold still and they work on you, whether you're sleeping on the grass there in the mountain somewhere, and you like hold still. So I asked them, I'm like, who are you guys? And they like, we are boards whenever we need to work on like something that has to do with the body. And they, of course, because I come from the Monguni type practitioner method, they call themselves in a Monguni language, which is abaletwa. I love that word, because it's like we are the ones, not the chosen ones, the ones who are brought into ceremony to help as well. And then slowly you start to learn that these energies can be invoked, right? And for ceremony, but that's an advanced course for anyone who's a shaman, and they'd understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, these are so amazing. And if we go a little deeper, right, as to what are these entities, you can easily say that these entities are like some entities from a different dimensions that are suddenly just come during ceremony after you taking this magic potion that was cooked for days, right? Or it could be that these entities are just you fixing you. But that sounds so crazy, because it's so hard for us to see ourselves anything other than this linear thing, this body, because we are in times where there's a lot of material reductionist type thinking, where we reduce ourselves into these physical things and we don't see beyond that. It's like this thing when I always tell people that the energy, your ancestral energy, is passed along, right? It could be stuck in the gene, it could be stuck in your energy system, where you find that within your ancestral lineage, if there was rape in the family, maybe 7 or 8 generations ago, it keeps getting passed along because no one solved it until you come, and then we get to solve it. So the kid is gonna get raped, the great grandparent's gonna experience that, and it's gonna pass it along, and that energy system, that thing is gonna be there, and it might store itself as cancer, it might store itself as something else in your sacral chakra, or it might store itself in another space, right? And that energy is just there, it's just holding on to you. But there's a bigger part of you, the innocence, the peace that is calling you, the love that is calling you, the love that you truly are. And it's so hard to wrap your hand around knowing that you are still your great-grandparent. You are every single person within your lineage and much broader who has lived, because they exist in your energy system. Even if you are to look at the world as linear, it still holds true. that you own 0.00000000001% of a certain ancestor within your energy system. So when you look at those prehistoric humans, right, when you're watching National Geographic or whatever you choose to watch, you have to understand that that is you. You are everything that has ever happened in the human journey. You are everything, and that everything has had its faults along the way. Not its faults, its experiences, right? Those experiences might just become a trauma for you, and that might have been the energy that you are carrying. And when these beings who seemingly come from another dimension to come and assist you, these angels, as some people call it, I saw these angels, are there to help you release that you've been holding on to for such a long time. And for the first time, you'll experience yourself before that disconnection from inner peace and love and safety. So the most interesting thing, right, is that these entities, once you go through a psychedelic journey, sometimes they do come back and you go through a mini trip or ceremony with self. And the reason why they come back and you're like, oh my God, I experienced those beautiful beings again. Let me call the shaman. The reason why they'd come back is because they would be like, we are not done here. And sometimes it would be like they have some unfinished business that they might have started and couldn't finish. And one thing that some people get confused by is that they'd be like, oh my God, this thing might have opened some portals that I can't handle. But the truth is that you're actually remembering who you are. You are a multifaceted being. The reason why it feels so abnormal to be under for something like psychedelics, where you're seeing auras and energies and lives, and the reason why it feels so abnormal is because we're so disconnected. If you go to Central Africa and you ask them about the psychedelic called Ibogaine, and you ask them as to how did you learn this, who taught you, how did you find this, they'll tell you that the plants told me. You go down here in Southern Africa, you go to Tanzania in the Hadzabe tribe, they literally communicate with birds, and the birds will tell them where to find the food. They literally communicate. So you're like, how did you guys find this? Do you have GPS? No, we're just following the bird because we asked it and it told us, and so that's how we found it. You go to the Amazon, parts in the Amazon, and you ask the tribe, the Piraha tribe, you ask them and you're like, how did you find the food, or how did you know that there's a predator? Then they'd be like, no, the monkeys told us that there's a predator that side and we must walk a little more gently. Right? They communicate. But now, imagine now in this realm, the one that we are living in, where we're so disconnected, where now, if you were to have that ability, you would literally feel like, I'm the most spiritual person on earth. But in truth is that you're just remembering who you are. That's who you are. So these beings, these entities are not there to harm you. They are there to help you restore who you are. And when they feel like they're done, they vamos. They're usually a short part of the ceremony, but they're really high impact, because that's one thing that you can literally feel with your body. You feel like when they're removing something, it literally feels that way, like someone is taking something out of you. I hope you learned something. There's a lot to talk about. Thank you.